Today we're keeping the party moving.
It's time to dive into our second installment of our ongoing series we call The Process Party.
And this week we're focusing on client consultations.
We share how we set the tone, get paid, and add value for our clients.
Let's go!
Hi, I'm Rebecca of Studio Plum.
And I'm Shaun of Renstead Interiors. We're interior designers
Turned internet friends.
turned real life friends.
Welcome to the Hot Young Designers Club podcast.
We're not that hot.
Or that young.
Every week we'll be spilling the tea on how a new generation of interior designers can run their businesses.
Welcome to the club. Hey, stranger.
Man, Rebecca, I am telling you,
It's been a hot minute.
in a hot young designer's world.
It's always hot in our world.
Some like it hot, you might say.
Yeah, and sometimes hot isn't good. A little too much heat in the kitchen, perhaps.
Sticks, flames, fire, we're burned. It's that hot lately.
Yeah, so we're here.
We, look, took a minute, need to catch our breath, had a lot going on, and I think it's important for like everybody to know we are all going to have those moments in running our business where everything comes at you at once in your personal life, in your professional life, your business, your clients. There are so many demands placed on all of us at so many different points. And for us, the answer was, okay, let's relieve some of that pressure and slow down a minute.
Yeah, one of my old bosses once said, we had a really busy marketing department, and he once said, you know what? Every day I go to work and I decide who I'm going to disappoint today. Because
That is the realist.
something's going to get not done properly. So
Yeah, one task or one email or one phone call or whatever, it's not going to get done. It'll be there the next day.
We're sorry, HYDCers. You guys were the ones who we had to disappoint the last couple weeks, but we're back.
We had just reset some priorities. And I think, honestly, if you guys are listening to this and you're having those moments, it is okay. Don't let it be at the sacrifice of your like mental health and well-being to just keep pushing yourself through all these tasks. Like find something to take a hold on so you can take back yourself.
Yes. So I just wrapped up my one-room challenge room yesterday, and it turned into I've been saying it's the one-room shit show the last couple weeks. It is amazing. I'm so happy with it, but it was a lot of physical and mental work. So photo shoot was yesterday, right. And I feel like my heart and brain can go on.
I think your family went through a much more aggressive ringer than my family did getting through the closeout of one room challenge, because I ultimately I'll talk about it after it reveals. I'm going to do some stories on Instagram where I talk about, and here's the stuff that you didn't see in a photo shoot, because there is always something behind the scenes that wasn't touched up yet, wasn't done yet, had to be faked for a photo, chose not to put it in a photo. And that's just the reality of me working through a lot of stuff with my family, my dad's health, like my business, clients who still need stuff. And it's like, all right, one room challenge, there's a few extra ideas that had to give way. Mm-hmm. I'm still really pleased with where I ended up. And it's been magic sleeping in a proper adult bedroom again.
Oh my God. It's so like, this was the first one room challenge that was like definitely the magic. Like it was what we needed at the end of the one room challenge, basically, like luxurious bedding, soft pillows, like a nice just place to lay down and sleep. It's so nice. Yes. Last night I slept for like 12 hours.
I don't want to forget that. That's a feeling we need to remember and keep it in our heads, because it's important when we're talking to clients that they know that we can understand where they're at when they're hitting that point of a renovation, when they're going
Yeah,
through. We have to show them there is still a light at the end of the tunnel, and bring some empathy, because I think that's key to the role that we play. Is part of our job is like family psychologist during client
totally.
projects.
Yeah, I call myself a designapist sometimes, especially when I'm working with a couple. Um, yeah, like it's an emotional, financial, and physical stress, like having work done in your house.
Oh my God.
Oh,
Don't
and
I
by the
don't want
way,
to I'm
my
not ready to jump in again.
and our house was such a mess that I had to have a cleaner come in today. So you may hear the faint sound of a vacuum cleaner.
And that's just going to be what needs to happen to keep things sane, because it's it's a lot of mess during construction. Yours was probably even more so involved than mine, because I was able to chunk them into phases where I could like keep up with the cleaning throughout. And then you had so much motion there at the end of
Oh
yours.
my God.
So
Like my
um
child is feral. Like my dog is now like dressed in drag most days. Like it's just like whatever it takes to keep her happy. Like, I'm sorry, Desmond, you took one for the team. Like he had hairspray in his hair.
I know that's a sight to behold,
He
and
looks
I do
really
feel for
cute
Desmond,
and
and
he
I'm
he look he can rock some hot pink velvet is all I have to say.
I am sure he is ready for you guys to get back on a normal schedule where you can spend some time with him and he can sleep in the bed.
Yep, he's all curled up. He's exhausted.
Okay. Um
Okay. Should we
this
get into
week this week is a part 2 of our process party series. Pew 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 pew.
it? We
Today
had
is
to.
all about consultations.
Yes, I love a consult. I miss a proper consult. I'm
It's a
excited to
little
get back
bit
into
weird.
one.
I've had a few in the last couple weeks here where the mood is different, the energy is different. I'm trying to work on that, and how do I help still bring the like shine part of that first in-person interaction with a potential client project, that you still want them to start with that, and you don't want to spend the first 15 minutes complaining about COVID. um but it is part of everyone's like vernacular now, and we're working on it.
Yeah, it's. I think everyone's just kind of a little bit more used to it. I mean, I don't know if you got your haircut done professionally this week, right? I mean, it's a whole
Yes,
thing.
it's a whole like wait in your car till we call you, then you can come in, because we won't have too many people in the lobby, and we got to control how many people are moving around. And
Temperature? Did
they
you get your temperature done?
yeah, and they couldn't they well my salon has chosen not to do uh blowouts for people, because of course that blows out
Oh, your breath.
particles. If you do have something behind your mask and you're coughing it out or sneezing it out, then the hair dryer just blows it around, which for me, no big deal. I have short hair. I can style it at home. But I'm like having to hold my mask on and taking the ear things off
So they
so
don't
they
cut
could
it
like trim around
off.
my ear. And I'm like, oh, all right. So
Yeah.
that is to say that the whole language and the way we interact and communicate with clients is going to have some changes. I don't have all the answers right now, but I'm just trying to still bring that level of enthusiasm and excitement to consults that I had before, because they're still excited to do a project, and
Oh, it's a big deal.
they want like a beautiful house, and I want them to feel that energy from me, and I don't want them to feel like I've been run down by the world, that I'm going to bring that energy into their house. Like I
No,
wouldn't
you're
want to
never gonna.
hire that.
Right. And I was having a conversation earlier with someone like there's this extra layer of emoting that I feel like we have to do to get past the mask. Like Like, are my eyes like reading smiley? Like, like I
Yeah.
want to make sure that you can tell like what my expression really is. So
It's
like,
basically podcasting, but in person. You
or
have
like
to like,
bigger body language. Like I feel like like, or when I was shopping at Home Goods the other day, I'm like, no, it's okay. You got like, I felt like I was
you're not
really
seeing you guys.
hands,
Rebecca's doing like cheerleader hand motions. Like
big hand signals. It's kind of cool.
you have to be really expressive, laugh a little bit more where you might have just kind of like
Like
had a
nod
little
more. Like
exactly.
so funny.
So that is legit part of the new process. But um today we wanted to just like connect back for those of you who listened in, dive back to episode 8, our client intake process party, and we touch on how we get up to the consult. So episode 8 is a good refresher on how do we manage getting the first
Leads.
inquiry from client, the initial conversations, how are we getting through some of our automation, making it easier for clients to know what to expect. I know you guys probably heard from that, Rebecca and I both use Acuity to pair with a couple of other apps and processes that we work with. And that is still how all of my client consultations are booked. Even if it's virtual or it's in person, they all have to go through my Acuity scheduler, whether it's on my website or links in my email. And they've got to go through there. I don't
You gotta
book
pay.
over the phone. Yeah, I don't book over the phone, even if they're like, oh great, let's walk through the dates right now. It's like, okay, go ahead and log on to the link I sent you, and then click on the dates on the calendar, and you're gonna have to enter the short intake form, and you're gonna have to pay before anything shows up on my calendar.
Yeah, it does take like a lot of that back and forth out. Like I hate the
When are you
awkwardly
free? When are
waiting
you
for, or well,
free?
that, or like at a consult, like waiting for someone to go grab their checkbook or
Oh, it's so weird at the end.
no, unless like they're an existing client and I know like I'm gonna go order their furniture right now and they've decided to pay the invoice, like I'll wait for that
Correct.
check, but like we already have a relationship. But
Yeah, if
yeah,
I've done something for them before, I mean, I like to follow the same process, but it's again, you guys base it off your comfort level. But I'm gonna say it's so nice to walk in and know you've already been paid for it. Like it just relieves the stress, the anxiety, and not every consult is created equal. I've definitely had some where I feel like, yeah, I don't know that they got the same amount of value out of this that I hoped that they would. And for it's different for everybody, but it's nice to say like, oh, I don't feel like they got the same value and now I have to ask them for the same price everyone else pays. I don't want to
oh
feel guilty about that. Like my expertise is there, how we use the 2 hours, and if you got everything out of it, it's not all up to me. It's also up to the homeowner to help make that valuable.
right. Yeah, I mean I think I said this in the last episode, like I get their address, like if there's a gate code, I mean, I don't have to communicate with them at all until I walk into their house. So it just
if
takes a
they
lot
if
of
they want
that.
to do it directly, right? Versus like if they do a phone chat with you beforehand, then you might have to
Right. Yeah.
talk to
But
them.
I mean, I think I said before, like a big percentage of my consults are just directly booked. Sometimes I'll get a DM, like a lead through Instagram or something, and I just have an email that I send them that includes the link to my contact form, and it just sets in that workflow, and it's kind of up to them.
Yeah. If you guys are not doing something to automate yourself, don't feel overwhelmed yet. I know, Rebecca, in episode 8, you talked about using Dubsado to automate some of your things. I'm not using Dubsado, but I'm still using Acuity. And I have templated response emails that I set up in my Gmail that it's the same, essentially, it's the same email that goes out to everyone who puts in a request for a phone chat. Before their phone chat, it's this templated email that tells them some details about what to expect, what we could cover. I don't in the first emails really spend a lot of time talking about price because I mean, people want the sexy part first during consults. And yeah, they're worrying about or thinking about price, but I won't really know until I've done the consult how
Right.
involved it's going to be. Um, but if it involves remodeling, I do have a link to, maybe we could put this in our show notes. It's a cost, like cost versus value in
Oh,
construction table, and it's from like a national remodeling guide. And for our listeners, if this applies if you're in the US, I don't think that they cover data outside of the US for it. But it's helpful for our US listeners because you can dial it in by region. So, like the West Coast, and then go down even further into parts of California, major metropolitan areas. And if you're not sure, look for another metropolitan area that's similar in size and complexity to yours that you think cost of living would be close. And in some of my initial emails now, I'm including a link to this site because it pulls a lot of data from what homeowners actually spend on different types of projects. It's not what the contractors say was spent, it's the homeowners self-reporting the data. And I have had quite a few clients and consult appointments all say, that was really helpful. I really didn't know what would be involved or how involved it would be. And I'm not one where I don't like to repeat myself during meetings. Like if I have a consult with different people and I'm constantly saying the same things, then I feel like I should give them more information up front so I can give them focused, customized information instead of like templated information over and over again.
right.
So that cost value guide is a really cool one for people to understand. Oh, how much does like a medium bathroom remodel cost? How much does a upscale kitchen remodel cost? Because a lot of my consults are not so much standalone. A lot of them are leading into larger projects. So usually we've had phone chats and we have a good idea that when I show up for that consult, we're looking at the consult with the lens of me helping to generate a proposal for them later.
And it's not going to cost $10,000 for a kitchen remodel.
No, and y'all, everybody needs to stop. And I do actually tell during discovery calls with clients, I tell them, um, whatever you heard from HGTV is probably wrong. And I have no problem telling people that, oh yeah, like stuff gets sponsored, stuff gets paid for, labor gets discounted for people involved in those shows, and none of that will apply here. So
Right.
unless you're Chip and Joanna, and you're going to demo your own kitchen, you're going to have to pay someone to do it.
Demo's expensive. It's like demo's like an
Mm-hmm.
annoying line item.
And the dump
Uh,
fees and the porta
yeah.
potty for the guys out front, unless you want them using your bathroom, like
Ew.
it's going to get messy after day one. So that's all stuff that you don't see on TV because the production company already has a lot of that covered.
Right. It's part of their company.
Yeah. Do you answer a
Uh,
lot of questions about that during consults? Like the cost of that type of work?
construction work. I
Yeah.
don't really. I don't do a lot of construction and renovation. So no. I think yeah, most of my consults are more decor. Um
Okay.
and like I said, I do a lot of just one-off consults and like that's
Hmm.
the understanding from the beginning. And I
Like they
really
want your
love it.
expertise.
Like I just actually had a woman who I did a consult with for their family. God, I mean, it's probably a year and a half ago, and and they were going into a kitchen renovation that they were going to semi DIY, and she was kind of showing me that she had a lot of ideas, and she wanted to do tile and wood floors, but it was an open concept, and I'm like, I think you should
Okay.
just do the wood all the way through. Um, So anyway, she just wrote me like 2 days ago saying that they did that and they took a lot of my suggestions and she was so like happy with just my perspective, like really helped them. even though like it ended up costing more, she's like, I'm so glad we did it. Like every day I come out and I'm so happy with the flow. And so,
That's why we do what we
yeah,
do,
it
because even if it
is.
is small improvements like that, changes the way people think about their homes and the way they enjoy them. And it's just, that's part of the magic. So if they can get that from a 2-hour consult, that's great.
Yes. Yeah. So, and I'm like in a ton of houses, so I see like what works and what doesn't. So when you're not, doing home visits and consults, like you don't really know. So, yeah. So I know you don't do that as much, but like it's part of my business model, or it was.
Yeah.
Been a lot less, but I've been doing Zoom versions where, yeah, people like literally just pick my brain for 2 hours about whatever they want. And I think it's really fun.
I don't mind throwing out stuff like that really quick in meetings.
Yeah. But I just think
I
it's
think it's good.
like,
Like,
I don't think it's for every designer. Not every designer would want to do this, but I just think there's a big market, especially like kind of a smaller city like Sacramento, where people just don't have the budget to hire a designer, but they can still find value from my ideas. And even if they're
totally.
DIYing, like they're stuck on something, and I can usually give them a perspective they hadn't thought of.
I think that's true even here in Los Angeles, where
I'm
I am, though,
sure.
that there are a whole range of clients that I want to try to. I'm at a point where I do have that time to still be going out. And there have been consultations where they're like, yeah, we don't think we're going to be doing a big project yet, but we just need help getting there. We need some direction. We need some help with that. And, I let them, it's kind of this similar idea of, okay, I can give you some colors to sample, and then you're just going to pick one, but I'm not going to come back unless you want to have me come back again. Here's a place to start. These are some good go-to. Everyone always wants go-to white paint colors, which is like
Mm-hmm.
kind of yawn, but also if they're helping to pay my bills and keep my doors open, cool. Like two
Yeah, and
hours
to
is no
me,
big
like
deal.
it just keeps my days interesting. Yeah, I mean, I do a lot of space planning with people in those meetings where it's always funny what people don't think of themselves. Like I don't feel like I'm
Yes.
really doing any kind of.
You're not like the rainmaker of space planning, but it
No, but
comes
like
easy
people
to
just you
you.
just get, even in our own homes, like you just get stuck, like you are used to thinking of a room this way. So like what if you turn things around? Like what if you move that light fixture and turn this open space into a dining area? I don't know. Just that stuff's all fun. So I do a lot of that.
Those are the magic moments. Like, hey, don't put a table here in your entryway. You guys need a bench more for the kids to use and then they're like, what? And it blows their mind. Like,
Right. Totally.
a bench? Who would have thought? And that's why you hire an expert. Like,
Yeah.
we see a lot of rooms and we do that. And if I were telling another designer, here's like, leverage what you can do. If you want to be doing consults, let clients into what you can accomplish with that. If they're not familiar, if it's not in your emails or on your website, do like a Instagram highlight where you maybe do it all live or something, and then save it in a highlight where you're talking about what did you accomplish during a consult. Maybe after you finish at a consult, talk briefly about what you accomplished. I think a lot of potential clients who haven't worked with a designer have no idea what value they're going to gain during that. And it's not just like a meet and greet. It really is a working meeting together.
Yeah, I feel like I need to do more of that because not every single one, but almost all of those DIY consults I do, people are like, oh my gosh, this was so helpful. And I don't think I sell it very well because, yeah, people don't totally know. So, what exactly are you going to help me? I'm like, well, I don't know. I don't know what you need,
Yeah.
but, um, and something else you said about using your resources. I think part of the reason why these work well for me um, is I am pretty connected in the community, especially I've said this before, like I'm in a
Mm-hmm.
few moms groups where moms share moms, and so my name gets passed around a lot. So it does help me see more families with different budgets
Yep.
since they're already sharing me anyway. So
And you meet people where they're at. Like, you're not
yes.
saying, oh, we're at a point where we're doing a $20,000 living room, but here's kind of what you could get at a different price point, or
But
let's sketch
sometimes I
out.
am. But then, yeah, but then it does let me spend time on those bigger furniture projects, which I have going on too. So it's like the big rocks, the little sprinkles, fill
It's
it in with
just
sand.
a way to diversify the way you make money. Like, while you're
And
on big projects, you're between big payouts, but also you need a little bit coming in all the time.
exactly. And just for me, especially my personality doesn't like to do the same thing every day. So I
I,
really don't like routine. I don't like things that are the same. So the consults are always
I burn
different.
out after like 40 minutes of the same task.
Yeah. Or if like I've already
Like
done this before.
AutoCAD day for me,
Oh my
or
God.
yeah, like a procurement days when you're having to like place all the orders and do all that. Like, that's not a fun day. So I'd like to mix it up with something. Um, do you have set days that you do consults? I don't know if we've talked about that before.
I did. I mean, full disclosure, I don't know what I have right now. I don't know what
If you're
what
gonna
I'm
have
doing.
childcare, if Mercury's in retrograde or not.
Like honestly, like this yesterday or this week of One Room Challenge reveals has been like my graduation from quarantine. So
I
now,
get
like
it.
this week is the week that I need to start thinking of what's going to happen next. I blocked out my schedule a lot. But what was your question? Oh, special days.
You also blacked out my question.
I also blacked out
If you would
everything.
prefer set days, or if you did in the past, yeah.
Yes, I did. I think I did like 2 days for consults. And then I always tell people if they need special accommodations, just let me know and I'll find another time that works. I think I also had 1 or 2 Saturdays a month that I started playing with too, that I had
I'm,
available.
Mine are kind of close to that. I do the same thing. I limit my acuity to scheduling 2 consults a week, which is helpful. And then I only let it schedule consults. Maybe we talked about this in episode 8, but I only give it availability to schedule consults between 10 a.m. and 3 p.m.,
Yeah.
which is good for me because I'm not driving in LA County traffic or Northern Orange County traffic during the peak hours. So, depending, like if a client were really out of my zone, I would have a conversation. I have one client who had an inquiry last week. She's pretty far out of my zone. I'll probably have to add a travel charge, but I'm happy to handle that one off with that versus most others are really close to me. And I don't need to add it because it's all built into my price to be able to accommodate getting there and back. Um,
So we were just talking about this off air, off pod air. I have my first out of town consult this week in Truckee, which is a mountain lake community with a lot of vacation homes. So I'm charging some travel time. I'm not charging my full hourly rate though for
right.
travel.
And
Is that
that,
how you do
I
it?
feel like that's a good compromise because I charge travel at half my hourly rate as part of my contract. And I comp the first 30 minutes of travel time because that's like, I gotta give something. Like,
Well, you can just bake it in, right? Like,
everybody else shows up, like, yeah, exactly. It's built into my price. Like, my AC guy, my electrician, my all these people, they drive around to jobs and they
it's
make it up
part of
on the
the
job
cost of
itself.
doing business.
Right.
Yeah, and I
But
know
after
some
30
people.
minutes, you're not gonna have me driving all over LA County 2 hours, 3 hours a day and not getting something back.
Yes. I know some people believe that your time is your time and you shouldn't shift your rate around. And I
Eh.
agree, but
But also, I'm
also
not
like,
using like my space planning expertise magic sitting in the car.
I'll be listening to a book or a podcast. Like it'll be,
Exactly.
and I'm actually kind of excited to be alone in a car for 3 hours to
Especially
TBH.
lately because we've had less of it. So to me,
Yeah.
it wouldn't bother me to charge like a part of my, because my contract is built that way for clients. It's, if you're going to have me commuting more than 30 minutes, it's half my normal hourly rate. It's built in as part of my contract, and I would accommodate the same type of behavior for a consult that was out of my range if I needed to.
And that's something that you talk about, yeah, with your contract and the proposal that we'll probably
Yeah.
talk about next time. But
That's another process party.
it is, but that's like, yeah, are you like, especially you, like, are you geographically undesirable? Like it's goes both ways. Like they may not
That's
want
part of
to,
the intake.
yeah.
Part of my form asks like, well, where are you? Because I might not want to be doing that. That might be just a little out of my zone. And or if you are really outside of the zone that I want to be in, it better be a really amazing project with enough budget to make sure that that's worth it to me. Um,
And to them, they may
because
not want to charge you
I
to be
have
paying for it.
I have told people during discovery calls, I don't think that I'm going to be a good fit for your project. And I never say it's them. I really try to avoid that during, like, when I get to a consult, I only want to go if I'm going to be excited about doing a project with them and giving them advice and guidance. And I can get a little bit of a feel for it when they're like, yeah, we're doing this big remodel and we want to do this. And if I'm already sharing with them that, you know, some of their budget numbers are really ambitious for what they want to accomplish and they sound less than enthusiastic about that, then I might say, you know, I feel like realistically it doesn't make sense for me to come out to do a consult with you unless you are prepared for these new numbers.
Yeah, if the whole point of the consult is to get into a bigger contract, then yeah, you're screening them in those calls. You should be,
Yeah. Yeah.
as much as they're screening you.
I like showing up and feeling like we're starting from a good place, that we're on a productive page. And then, I don't know, first couple minutes I get in there. I want kind of a big tour of, like, give me, like, I say, like, can you give me the 5-minute tour or something, like really quick? I want a fast, take me through the house. I need to see where everything lands, see how spaces relate to each other. How do you use them? And, you know, I'm doing my like, ew, oh, what's that? Oh, I'm coming back to that while we're walking through.
Like in your head, right? You're not like
In my head, in my
verbally
head. Yes,
viewing.
yes, yes. In my head,
You're
I'm going,
not
oh no, this is where you live?
you're not that designer going, ew, hate it, gotta
Hated
go.
it. just stop. But I think that's important to do, kind of a general survey, even if they said, yeah, we really want to focus on the kitchen. It's like, okay, well, that's great, but
Let me
I
see.
need to
Yeah.
see all the rooms that line up next to it, around it. How do you get outside in this house with the food when you have people over? Like, I got to
Mm-hmm.
understand how all of it fits together. And sometimes I tell clients, I don't think you should be focusing on this room. I think your biggest room is, you know, your biggest trouble spot is this spot. And some people don't like that, but my job, you're not paying me to just agree with you if you're bringing me in for a consult. You're paying me to come in and give you the real, like,
Yeah. Well,
in a nice way.
they can take you up on it or not. Like it's still, you're not coming in with a sledgehammer. Like, yeah, they still get to decide.
Yeah, I'm not making them agree to rip out cabinets while I'm there.
Gotta
People need,
go. You come in with your red spray can.
yeah, Axe on this one. People
That would
need
be
time.
amazing.
People need time to marinate. They need time to weigh options. I always like to give people that space to think. I just like throwing out ideas, and I do tell people that. I'm like, okay, indulge me. Right now there's no budget. Right now there's just the dreams you want and the goals you want, and I want you to tell me all your hopes and dreams for these spaces that we're looking at during consults, because it's not good to limit yourself at the beginning of something. It's like,
No.
well, let's see if we can get your hopes and dreams in here. Maybe we can get more than you think, and maybe it's not as much. But if I don't know the whole laundry list of stuff you would love to have, I can't try to get them in for you. And that's what's good about a consult is like lay it on us. Like tell me everything you want to accomplish, and maybe we could get like we might not get to the stars, but I can get you to the moon.
I always think too, like every client has a different kind of threshold or like style, I guess, of making decisions. Some
Yeah.
people really get overwhelmed. Like if you just throw too many ideas at them at once, they're gonna like their eyes start spinning in the back of their head. But so like I have to like cautiously kind of like, I don't know, get them used to the idea of like, are you sure that this sofa that you've had for
Mhm.
25 years still needs to
Is
be the
this the
thing that's
sacred cow
holding
you
this
really
whole
want in
room
this
up?
case?
Yeah, like this sofa is the problem with your whole downstairs right now. Like if you didn't have this, then this could happen, then that could happen, then that could happen.
Oh my God, that's how I feel about most sectionals. And
I
everyone's
know.
like, well, we really need to work this. And I was like, okay, let's have our like come to Jesus. I really think that this is the problem in your space. It's like we're forcing ourselves to work around one thing that's causing all the problems when we really should be fixing the one thing and it will automatically solve so many more of your issues.
I personally understand the wanting a sectional, like give me that corner spot. But I mean, it's a rare case where a sectional can move from a house to a house and work just fine. Like
Totally.
they have to be
Unless
like
it's all
customized.
interchangeable
Like
pieces,
my crazy
and
thing. Yeah.
if you can take components out and still have plenty of seating, great. Most of them though, they're like, it's not even that they're a whole like cube too big. It's like this one is 16 inches too long and now it's blocking a walkway. And it's like, well, there's no removable 16-inch piece. So
Right. Or it's the opposite direction, or that
yeah,
chaise
the
is
chaise
like
is on the
not
wrong
making
side.
sense. Yeah, like I have a client right now that we just ordered a custom sectional, and honestly, like the sectional, a sectional isn't really the best use of space for their room, but and we're kind of like pushing it on getting it in there,
Yeah.
but it was like worth it. Like we talked it all through. I'm like, honestly, like if you want a sectional, this is going to be like you're going to get a little close to this cabinet next to the fireplace. You're not going to get a table over there, but if it's more
It's a
important for you
trade-off they
guys to
want.
have, yeah, like you guys are going to have a cozy lounge spot that you wouldn't get with two sofas. So they want
Yeah,
like
not everything in a
before the,
consult.
yeah, I mean, you just, as long as like, I think you're clear with the trade-offs, I guess.
Absolutely. That's design is not everything looks like a magazine or a photo shoot. And also most of the stuff in that stuff is unrealistic to how people really live in it. So I do point that stuff out in consults. I'm like, well, here's a sofa size I recommend for you if you are going to look for a sofa, if you are going to be looking for a coffee table size. And I usually keep a sheet. I tend to write stuff down quickly than I do. Like I don't work with an iPad at my consults. But I bring my graph paper and I will bring my like couple quick marker sketches, and I can get a layout of the room. I bring my laser tape. I bring at least
Mm-hmm.
one or two paint decks, my like thin paint decks. It's not every color, but I have options. I have my tape. I have my measure, my laser measure, and I can generally get through some rough sketches of layouts and stuff during a consult, recommended sofa sizes. I can even sometimes I jot down like, here's a shopping list of like, okay, this room you need one sofa, two side tables, a coffee table, a rug that is at least 8 by 10, but you could fit a 9 by 12. And I kind of like it helps if there's going to be a bigger project involved, but some people just need to know like what belongs here. What do I do? Like what size rug? And
So do you, that brings me to like, there's another consultation debate about, do you take notes and provide them to the client, if even if it's just like a one-off consult?
I do. I give them the notes. I mean,
What do
yeah,
you
it's
do? Like, could you
proprietary,
hand them
but
over a piece of paper or
yeah, I
email?
do.
that's
I just
fine.
give it to them because I'm too lazy. I don't want to write emails and then that time isn't being like paid for anymore. So I just let them know. I'm like, if this is standalone and we're done, here's the note. Like take my graph paper page, take my little note page where I wrote down recommendations. And I have my own page that I have notes about things I want to remember about them in case we do turn it into something else. But the page I give to them is generally the graph page with a couple little action items in the corner, like 8x10 rug, 9x12 rug, sofa that's between, 86 and 96 inches. And I think for some people that's what they wanted. Or I give them like the name of like I've worked with like like a Roman shade online place that they can
Mm,
order from at the entry level. Like those aren't my private vendors at that point. So I don't
right.
mind directing them to something where I have zero liability if it comes out wrong. Like they're like, yeah, who would I order like cheap Roman shade for my daughter's bedroom? I'm like, oh yeah, check out this company.
Yeah.
You could get some good options and they'll mail you some samples. And I'm not giving them my workroom.
No, or you're like handyman or something.
Right. Exactly.
Um, yeah, I made it pretty clear in my consult sign up. I don't take notes. I mean, okay. I used to in the beginning take kind of long notes and then feel like I had this long follow-up email homework.
Oh no.
And I used to kind of do it, but then I cut it out. Because yeah, like I'm already done with my consult. I don't want homework. And then it just felt like, oh, well, I should be adding value and using complete sentences. And
No,
just,
because then you're not paying attention to what's happening in the conversation. I might have like 12 bullets of stuff at the end of 2 hours, which is really not much. And then out of those 12, it might mean that like 5% are actual things that I like give to them. So it's not a huge undertaking.
yeah, I now will only like, I'll jot down notes. I use just my note app usually on my phone when it's like a one-off consult. And I'll jot
Nice.
down like, we talked about a blog post that I saw that somebody did something similar to a fireplace. And I'll go back and just find that link and I tell them I'm just going to fire off a couple links. It's not going to be a
It's
fully
not a lot of
formatted
stuff.
email.
No.
Um, but I have in my consult sign up, like, you take notes. So they all kind of know, like, they come with their pen and paper, like,
Yeah.
they're like, got their little clipboard. Um,
I have told people, I'm like, oh, you should write this down. I'm like, it's called board and batten. Like someone wanted like a
right.
custom, they wanted to create the panel. And I'm like, honestly, if you don't want to have a contractor in here, you and a handyman could knock this out. Go on Pinterest, search board and batten panel wall. You could totally get this done with a handyman. And some people just don't have the language,
Right.
so they don't know what to search. And I'm like, oh, you're talking about this type of door, or you're talking about this type of wall treatment. And they're like, oh, I didn't know that's what it was called. And I'm like, well, that's valuable to people who don't, they're not
They
as
know
well
what to,
versed.
they know what to search in Pinterest now. Like,
Yes,
yeah.
you need Google, House, and Pinterest search terms. And we know the vernacular. It's our trade lingo. And if I can help people with what to find and search on their own, I'm happy to do that. Um,
Or we're like we're staring at rooms and Instagram, and you and I are constantly like sharing different ideas with each other, and so some of those stick is like like a specific scenario that
yeah.
I'll remember, like, oh, I saw that on somewhere, let me dig it up and I'll show you. It's like your exact same corner of your entryway or whatever.
Yeah. Or this kitchen is laid out and has windows in the same spot as this one that I saw online.
Yeah, or Studio McGee put a secret pantry door in her client's kitchen, and it would totally work for this space.
And not everyone is as immersed. And so I think that's part
Most
of
people are not. Most
I
people
think
are not.
that's our value too, is that we like live and breathe this. And yeah, I turn it off at some point too, but um clients are not, and they need some of this, and they're happy to have our expertise to give them those ideas or put them in a direction. And I I do not go back and forth on price anymore when people are like, oh, I didn't think it'd be that much. I'm like, well, that's what it is. Here's what we accomplished during that time. And you can get, here's my calendar. The onus is on them. I don't chase anybody. But I'm not playing hard to get either. It's just like, no one is that awesome that I'm going to chase them.
Right. Well, I mean, you have
I
other fish to fry.
I have,
Like,
yeah. And if you're not ready and if it's too much for you, that's okay. And I politely tell people that all the time. I said, look, this is not for everybody. There are a lot of costs involved with working with the designer, going through home remodeling. And I said, a big leverage for me is I want to be able to have you save time. I want to provide my clients peace of mind. I want them to know that I'm an advocate for them during these projects and that I'm on their side to help them navigate the world of construction. And I think those are the benefits that we have to enumerate to clients or potential clients during a consult is this is what I do best. I help give you peace of mind. I give you your time back, but in exchange, you're using my time and you have my expertise to help you navigate or troubleshoot situations where normally you would only have your contractor to talk to. And not
right,
all contractors are designers.
and they're gonna try to just pigeonhole you into what's easiest for them and most
Yes.
efficient and make them the most money
I
for the
can't
most
tell
part.
you most contractors are thinking, what's the fastest, easiest, and cheapest way to do this, which has value. Totally, I'm not here to shit talk on contractors. That does have value because sometimes I have to say to the contractor, what is the fastest or cheapest or easiest way to fix this problem? But
Yeah.
when it comes to executing a design solution, they'll say, well, that's going to cost more. Yep, and we're doing it that way. This is how, give us the estimate for that, the way we want to do it, not tell me how to do it differently for cheaper or less time or whatever. It's like, no, that's not, I'm here to
Or
help the
they'll
client get the
just
desired result.
put your vanity outlets right underneath the light fixture and centered in the
Ugh,
middle of your backsplash. Like,
barf,
that's the fastest,
barf.
cheapest, and easiest.
It
But does
is.
that make sense? No.
No,
You'll be pissed. We drilled into
no,
your beautiful tile.
it's just not good. And so all of that stuff takes time and energy. And sometimes I share some worst case scenarios with clients during
That's
consults.
the worst that could happen.
What's the worst I can have is my favorite thing. And I tell them about how, like part of this is that, you know, you don't want your tile guy going to get, 4 different batches of tile because they miscalculated, because then they're different. They may be different dye lots and they're from different sample sizes. And
Or they'll
people are
just
like,
schluter everything.
Blah, just stop with the Schluter
Like, I mean,
everywhere, everybody. I know it's the fastest, cheapest, and easiest, but it is also
you
barf.
can do it well, but you got to think about it. Like, let's
I
not just
have used
schluter every corner of every curb
every
in the
every
land.
curb, every shower, every niche, everything. I have used, what I'll say is I've used Schluter in projects, and if you use it right, it can really be made to look like it's not even there, but you have to plan out all of it. And it's
Or
okay to
a
tell
design
clients that.
feature. Like there's brash schluter right now. I just saw one of the designers in One Room Challenges doing it in
Yes,
her niche, and it looks really pretty.
it can be made into a design element instead of looking like oh, we just didn't want to take the time to miter cut the tile, or we didn't want to take
Or
the
like
time to
order
order
bonus.
a order bullnose or finished edge, or oh, we could have probably used part of the remnant from you shower niche, and then we would have had no edges. It would have just been this really cool piece. Like, that's the stuff where worst case scenario is okay to share during a consult, of kind of sell why they should want to keep you on board. Like, oh God, I never even realized that could be a possibility. Like, I want this person to advocate for me and be on my side and to help me through this. And I like being involved with project management. Not every designer does. I have no problem doing that because for me, it's kind of fun to make it run as smoothly as possible. It's like a game. not every designer does love that part of the process, though. Some of them would
I
prefer
don't
only
love
to
it.
work with contractors who already have their own on-staff project
Yeah,
coordinator.
I don't want to lead that. I prefer I would love to be there to answer questions, but I don't want to be 2 steps ahead of everything. It's not my strength with
It's a
contractor motivation
competition for
stuff.
me. It's my own competition.
You're good at it.
And not everybody likes it, but for me, when we're into like project management mode, I'm on it. Like I contractors sometimes get annoyed with me because I'm like,
Kevin's
hey,
on the scene.
should you? Yeah, I mean, like, shouldn't we be worried about this already? And I like my weekly site visits to say, like, oh, when are you going to frame that out? Oh, I was thinking, well, how is that going to work? Because then this is installed before that. And they're like, oh, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, I got to knock that out today. And it's like, that's why we do what we do, is to prevent mistakes and to prevent costly change orders. And I like being involved in that. I think during consults, we should be talking about what our strengths are, and not all of ours are the same. But
Right.
you don't have to talk about the stuff that isn't your strength. You don't have to try to downplay those. Just focus on during projects, this is what I execute really well. This is where clients always remark that they needed my help or that they're happy they had my help. And I I think that's important during a 2-hour consult. You don't have a lot of time to make an impression. I don't talk about price a whole lot. I try to sell them the sexy part of design and talk about mood boards and setting up material presentations. And that's the stuff that a lot of potential clients want to think about, is samples and presentations and the whole kind of luxe aspect of working with a designer. And then I do let them know, like, if from here, after this, after our consult, if you're ready to move ahead with a project, then I will prepare a customized proposal of what my design fees look like, and we will talk about it. But I don't want to leave them on that let's talk about money note, because that's not going to necessarily motivate most people to buy anything.
See, I don't know. I've had good success with clients that they're not super budget conscious from the beginning, obviously, but they don't know how to design or come up with creative ideas. So if I can paint like a really beautiful picture, and then I do like to sit down and be like, and this is more furnishing. Like,
Right.
okay, we have 2 rooms, like full, like living room, dining room is like what I do a lot of.
Yeah. Common
You cannot,
spaces.
you cannot do full everything furniture for. I mean, you're like, I mean, I told him like I would tell them like 2 rooms like that, like at least you need to know $20,000 is going to be
Totally.
to get you fully furnished, and that doesn't include custom sectional and art and styling. But
And that's
just
even missing some accessory styling.
right. I mean, that's just like kind of like the basic like minimum, and so if they don't freak out by that, then I'll go into a proposal and give them more.
It makes sense. That's a lot of stuff to put out there. And so big roundabout numbers, like I let them know, okay, we're in this meeting, and I try not to zone in on a specific number, but I'll say something like, other clients I've worked with similar goals to yours have spent in a range of, you know, 45 to 55,000 on a kitchen like this, or
Yeah.
35 to 40,000 on a bathroom like this that you're describing or that you're showing me in your Pinterest photos. Or, I mean,
The
I also
size.
don't want to get
Yeah.
into trouble. I recognize that some of you are in states where you may be more or less regulated than we are in California, but we'll run into some trouble spots where, as designers, we can't operate in the realm of what a contractor would do. So I try very hard not to overstep into am I providing bids and estimates for construction, because that can represent some legal trouble. And if you didn't know that, I recommend that you each research your state and your municipality and make sure that you aren't putting yourself at risk for liability. But it's okay to speak in generalities about some other projects have spent this much, usually is okay to say, or the average homeowner may spend around, as long as you're not really getting specific of, oh, taking out that load bearing wall, that's $1,500. Because now we're really
Oh
getting
my
in.
God.
Now we're really getting into the zone of like, well, that's like what a contractor would estimate. And then here's what something I learned when I worked in banking, a little phrase that was used in in what is otherwise a pretty questionable industry nowadays is they would always say, write it, regret it, say it, forget it.
Oh my
If
God.
if you put it in writing and you hand it to someone, you are going to regret it
You just wrote a
because
contract.
you wrote a contract, you wrote a bid, you wrote an estimate, and truly, like, have a conversation. You can talk in generalities, but yeah, it's impossible to go back and say, oh, you specifically told me my whole kitchen project would cost $52,000 and now it's going to cost this and you're responsible, or blah blah blah. Like, it's shocking what can come up from that. So
Or you told
please
me to
don't
take
write
out
it.
this wall and it is load bearing. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
oh my
Please do
God.
not, like, please
I
don't
always
put it
say
in
like,
writing.
oh, never in writing, but I'm like, if this wall wasn't load bearing, then this would be the
If
one
this
that I
isn't
would look
load
at.
bearing,
So we definitely
yeah.
need a contractor to check. I don't know.
Right. We'll
Um,
need an engineer, or we'll need, like, we're going to need the experts. I'm not a contractor. However,
exactly.
other homes in this area have been able to do that. And it would be nice if yours might be like that, could be like that. You guys got to focus in on those tentative words where it's, I'm not guaranteeing you we can rip out this wall. I'm telling you, it would be nice if.
Or we may need to have some sort of support header put in. Um,
Right.
I really, one of my things on my list that's, can you hear the vacuum? Sorry. For
Meh.
like the last 3 years has been to do one of those furniture price sheets, like a general high low. Do you have one where it's like, this is how much a
Like good, better,
sofa,
best type of.
yeah, and have like a matrix. So like, because when people hear the number $30,000, but then you start looking like, oh yeah, a sofa costs 3,000 to 4,000. That's normal. Oh yeah, a coffee table like 500. That's normal. Like once you start looking at each item, you see how it adds up so quickly, and then
Yes.
it's easier to have that. I haven't made it, but
I have a sample budget. I don't really do it for other. It really comes down. I feel like living rooms have the most moving pieces for most people, because a bedroom you could really pare down to a bed, two nightstands, two lamps, a bench. Bam, we're done. It's a set arrangement kind of thing for most people. Living rooms are the ones where it gets really tricky for most people. So I do have an example budget where it shows early in that of, this is a sofa and a rug and a coffee table and some side tables and various lighting elements, and it doesn't even include all the styling stuff. Estimate XYZ for this. I think that does help people, especially if they're in that phase of right from consult, they're not ready to go to a proposal because they still don't know what to expect. And I just let them know, I'm like, these are modest price points. You could fall higher, you could say spend lower on some, but there really is, like, it's kind of a minimum standard. Like, I don't want to recommend you a really cheap sofa that's going to be junk in 8 months with kids and dogs on it. Like,
and a lot of times people don't even know what things cost. Like I've found a lot of my clients are like in their mid 30s, their kids are just out of toddlerhood, and they've never really invested in furniture because they kind of
totally.
went from college to early 20s to establishing career to kids barfing everywhere. So they don't know that if you go to Pottery Barn, you're spending 2,500, 3,000 on a sofa easy.
Easy.
So like, yeah, I kind of feel like a Pottery Barn level, like budget to just show, like that's actually going to
Hmm.
add up pretty quick, and it's not the best quality.
It
Like I can get
does.
you better
You're
quality for the
right though,
money.
that in general,
Yeah, so that's one thing that I want to
10
add
grand
to my
goes
consults.
fast.
Oh my god, so fast. It's nothing. 10 grand is like, I don't know, the new 500.
But that's sort of the change. And um in a future episode we can talk about what my proposals look like, and I'll talk about how I've started. I haven't been doing this the whole 3 years I've been in business, but I've just started to move into presenting some kinds of value-based pricing models where it shows like, okay, you might not be at the level where you're going to have me do your whole living room project for you. And so if you're not in a place where you can commit to that budget where it's I'm doing it all for you and we're getting the whole process, then you might be better suited for a model with fewer services added in, like an e-design service where you then acquire the pieces slowly so you're not forking over 10 grand all at one time. um, because I mean, the design itself, the expertise that it takes to create it isn't so dramatically different from one level of service to another, but it's the stuff I'm not doing and they're doing all on their own that I don't mind if they do it on their separate project time.
Yeah, and that's where it's like having just lived through a renovation, that's when it's rough. I mean, I don't think people realize how many decisions go into every little space.
It's painful sometimes. And that's where we leverage the experience of
And just
this
the
is,
value of someone else shouldering that like million text messages from the contractor or
yeah,
where are
that's a
you?
selling point. That's a selling point for me, is to be able to like help clients navigate all of that. And I mentioned that like I'm there at, like, if you want me to be there when you're interviewing contractors and asking questions,
Yeah.
awesome, I can be there for that. If you want me to review their bids and estimates, and I can't tell you, I'm going to tell you this, I have never had a contractor's scope of work or estimate match exactly what we wanted to accomplish. I have always had to say, you forgot this, this isn't the right level of service for this. And it's not like an I gotcha game. It's just how do we compare apples to apples? If one contractor wrote one estimate one way and the other left stuff off the other, then they're not really comparable to one another.
Yeah. Are there appliances included or any kind of allowances for anything?
Or they don't include the installation of the appliance, but like, okay, well then who's going to bring it in the kitchen then? Like, that's the type of stuff where I do spend on project. If you're working with a handyman and electrician on getting stuff done for a client for a furnishing or smaller scale project, you want to make sure that that looks right also, and that all their agreements match exactly what the client thought was going to get accomplished. And I think that's why they want to rely on someone who's done some of this before to help them get through that if they've never done it.
Definitely. I had one more question for you that I remembered you told me. I think you do it for consults or maybe just pre-meeting.
Okay.
So maybe we edit this out if it's not appropriate. But
Ooh.
you started doing your COVID how this is gonna go videos.
Yes,
What do you
I
call it?
do. It's just like like, I don't know. I don't necessarily know if I call it, but it's like a video intro about like wearing masks during meetings, and that you need to do it. I need to do it. If you aren't going to wear them and I'm uncomfortable, I'm going to leave and the meeting's over. And I also wanted people to see my face, even though they can look on my website, but getting a video that I, send out, it feels more personal to be like, I'm really excited to come meet you. And they see my whole face on a video. And I think
So
it just
yeah,
makes it easier.
so you basically have like a one-time video that you send, like a generic video that you send to all new
Yes,
clients before you go into these face-to-face
e-
meetings. I think that's a really good idea.
exactly. And that's like, it's now built in as part of my day before confirmation email. Is It's embedded in the email to watch the video. Hey, I put this together. This is something I want you to take a look at before we meet tomorrow. And then it just reconfirms everything that we're talking. And I think it's honestly, so far the response has been great. People are understanding, and I think it is helping people feel better, because not everyone is comfortable still bringing outsiders into their homes, but to know that I'm being cognizant of the risk that it could represent, and that I'm wearing my mask, they're wearing the mask, and it just puts us all in the playfield of knowing
Well,
we're safe.
yeah, and you don't have to like be the school marm like saying like,
put your mask on, please.
right.
I can't stay if you don't have it. And I let them know, like, if you have any, friends or family that are going to be there during the consult, please make sure they have a mask. Most people are pretty cool. I hate it when there are kids running around during consults, but that's not because I don't like kids. That's just because I can't keep anyone's attention during a
I
consult that
know.
way.
It's usually like it's rare that has had to happen, but yeah, it is distracting because they want to interact. Like this child that's now joined our podcast. Can you say hi?
Hi.
Welcome to the show. Hi, Cecily.
Yes,
And
I
I think
can.
that's part of the reality of like keeping attention for our clients, making sure that we're focused on them and their home and not like their family dynamics with keeping kids occupied or holding a baby during it. Like,
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to stay focused when you have a child in your room. Okay, well, I think I'm excited to kind of get back into consults and see how they evolve because I
oh my
think
gosh, yes.
it's just going to be different. But now that I have some of my time back, I'm going to be back out there doing more in-home with proper gear.
Totally. I think there is pent-up demand for sure. And I've had a lot of interest from people. They want to get good advice, they want opinions, and they're hyper aware of the things that aren't working in their homes now that they were locked in them for a while.
With all of their family members. Yeah, everyone's
Yes.
so annoyed with their houses right now.
And we can help.
Yeah, that's where we bring value. Okay, well, I am also excited to get back on the process train of our podcast and being consistent
We've
once again.
Got so many future process parties lined up. And if you all have questions, please submit them to us. You can find us at hotyoungdesignersclub.com and our email is in there. You can get to us or slide into our DMs on Instagram because we want to make sure that we help you by answering specific questions you have about the process, or if you know you've got pain points in yours that we can help with, get at us. We want to help you through that. It could be a what would Rebecca do? What would Shaun do? If we haven't lived through it yet, how would we want to handle something like that? We're happy to play that.
Totes. Well, I'm excited to be back and have this time together once again.
Yes. Pew, 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 pew. Process party.
HYDC.
Thanks, Rebecca.
All right. Thanks, Shaun.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for joining this meeting of the Hot Young Designers Club podcast.
If you liked what you heard, please subscribe and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. Check out the show notes there for links to things we talked about today.
We are keeping the conversation going on Instagram, so don't forget to like, comment, and follow at Hot Young Designers Club.
You can find Rebecca on Instagram at Studio Plum.
And you can find Shaun at Renstead Interiors. That's WRENSTED.
Never gonna write you back.
So, okay. Well, I think...
Mom.
What?
In a couple days. Wait, when are we gonna do camping in backyard?
A couple weeks.
Well, my
That sounds
dad
fun.
said in a couple days because in a couple days he has those long days off.
Oh, well, okay. We'll talk about
So
it.
in a couple days we can do our camp in our backyard, and I'm inviting Auntie Alicia.
Okay. Is this something you just talk about right now?